Hey guys, how's it going? Thomas here, and in this video you're going to be learning exactly how to make your first ever travel video. So there's a ton of different reasons why people get into travel filmmaking. Maybe it is to capture your own memories, maybe it's to grow a following online, to start a dream career. Whatever your reason is, we're going to help you out in this video with 3 awesome tips. And there's actually a 4th tip at the end that is really valuable. It saved me a ton of time, so make sure you stay to the end for that. Before we crack into this video, I'd love for you to comment below actually, what is your motivation? What's your reason for making travel videos? I'd love to hear, I'm sure there's a ton of different reasons. So comment that down below and then we'll get cracking with the first tip. Okay, so tip 1 is to find your style or theme that you want to shoot throughout the video. This is incredibly important because let's think about a couple of different styles. Number 1 could be a style of you have a selfie stick and a GoPro, and you want to get one of those 360-degree shots of you spinning around with your GoPro, and you want to do that for every single shot in your video. This is a legit style, and I've seen really cool videos like this when people have done this in a ton of different locations with different people, and it kind of sums up their travel experience really nicely. So imagine the style of that GoPro selfie compared to something when maybe you want to create something a bit more emotional and you want to have a nice 50mm lens. It's quite a cropped lens that you can get down to a really nice f-stop, a low aperture when it gives you a really shallow depth of field, kind of very similar to what this is being shot on now. If you imagine this kind of shot, but throughout your whole travel video, and maybe you put everything in slow motion, maybe you used a really slow kind of emotional track that builds up to something, that's a completely different style, obviously, to the GoPro selfie 360 video, which is kind of like relies on a transition to kind of carry the video forward and probably a more upbeat style track. So you really have to pick your style because otherwise you're going to end up with a kind of jumble in between those 2 extremes of travel video styles, and it's not going to be cohesive, it's not really going to make sense. So you really need to pick a style in between those 2 styles or more extreme, whatever you want to do, but make sure you stick to that throughout your video. The scary thing here is that that kind of does seem limiting. So imagine you just want to do that 360-degree selfie video, and then there's a really nice moment that you see of a dog on a beach with the sun behind it, and you're like, how do I capture that in my 360-degree selfie video on a GoPro? That would be much more suited to having your 50mm style video in there. And that's the problem that you have to deal with when picking a style, is that some styles are going to exclude certain things and include others, and the other styles are going to do the opposite. So you need to kind of figure out what your trip's going to be about, what kind of stuff you want to make, and then pick your style, go from there. All right, so this brings us really nicely onto tip number 2, which is all about selecting what you shoot. Now, this sounds obvious, but it's incredibly important and it's going to save you so much time in the edit. To be honest, most of the stuff in this video sounds obvious, but I don't see anyone doing it who is just starting out. It's very typical that you'll make your first travel video and get absolutely nowhere with it and get frustrated and then never make a travel video again because you thought it was a massive ball ache or it ruined your trip. But really, if you apply these tips, you're going to have a great time whilst doing it, and it's going to be so much easier for you. So when we're talking about selecting your footage, this is really important, or selecting your shots. Basically what it means is that you've got your theme, you've got your style, and now you need to basically select each shot according to that style. So when you're out and you have the style in your mind, you want to be picking shots that are specific to that style, and that means not filming everything. This is the biggest mistake that people make, is when they're traveling and think, oh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. Film everything, and then you have a horrible time in the edit of going through 300 gigabytes of footage. And to be honest, most of the time when you shoot that much, you have one look at it and just think, nah, not gonna edit this, just definitely not. And then you don't make that travel video that you actually set out to make in the first place. So this is super important. Select your shots. And this kind of involves, this is like a micro point within everything in travel filmmaking. Obviously so much goes into just the shots that you get, which shots you get, how you shoot them, which is way beyond the scope of this video. But for this tip, I'm just giving you the advice of selecting it according to the theme, and make sure you keep stuff steady. This is kind of like 2 points in one, but why not? Keep stuff steady. Make sure that you're not shaking it around. Just take that little bit of time of just thinking, does this look nice? Is this going to work in my video? And just by putting that tiny bit of thought into each shot, it's going to help you so much in that edit. Okay, so now we're on to tip 3. There is a huge distinction between filming and editing a travel video a lot of the time, and it doesn't have to be that way. Essentially what I'm saying is that it's very easy to go out when you're traveling, get a load of footage, and then suddenly it's very different when you're back at home and you have to edit that footage, and there's kind of a separation between those two things, and it doesn't allow you to kind of keep your mind consistent in what's going on. So it makes it hard basically to keep the edit in mind when you're shooting and then your original plan in mind when you're actually editing. So a really useful thing you can do to bridge this gap is when you're actually shooting, start listening to a few tracks to help you imagine what your video is going to be like in the edit. So go on SoundCloud or go on YouTube, start listening to those tracks that you might want to use in your video and try and really visualize what it's going to look like, because this is going to give you some really important distinctions, especially if you're going through the footage you've already shot at this point as well. It will enable you to understand, maybe I haven't shot enough of this and I need to shoot more of that. Or maybe, the footage I've got so far isn't really what I imagined, I'm going to adjust from here. Because it saves you that horrible heartache of shooting blindly the whole time without really that vision, and then turning up in the edit and just being like, oh damn, I shot everything wrong. But this is a really important process that you can go through, and even better than that is actually editing whilst you're shooting as well. That can be super useful, and it's what I actually did in Croatia, was on maybe day 4, start going through the footage I shot already, start editing that, and then it made me realize I've shot so much footage of me backflipping off a boat, and I haven't really told a story. I haven't got any landscape footage, I haven't got any party footage. Let's hustle these next 3 days to try and get all that other stuff to make the video actually work and make it the original vision that I actually wanted it to be. All right, so we are onto our bonus tip, just as this lawn guy has decided to get his massive mower out and start doing a huge lawn beside us. It's not going to stop, so we're going to crack onto this bonus tip right now, which is to save yourself a lot of time in the edit. Make sure that your editing process is consistent, which means putting a timer on for your edit. And what do I mean by that? This is like a productivity hack that I use a lot in my editing, which means that when you come back from your trip, you have a ton of footage, and it can often be a little bit discouraging, to be honest, to actually sit down and do it, especially when you've been away in Greece or something, and then you're back to England, and it's like you're in the rain, it's like now I've got to relive these memories and edit my video for however long it's going to take me. So what you really want to do is just say to yourself, or write down on your to-do list, or however you manage your time, edit video for 30 minutes. And that's all I want you to do. And literally put on a timer for 30 minutes next to you on the edit and just start going through your footage. And just by putting on that timer, you will sit down and do it, because 30 minutes doesn't sound like a big deal. And once you get into it, you're actually probably more likely to realize, oh, this is actually cool, let's keep going through this and do it. And I would manage your time whilst you're editing in time slots as well. So once you've done that first 30 minutes and you've kind of pushed through that boundary of editing, then you can maybe set a timer for 45 minutes or an hour and just do your edit in an hour a day, or if you have much more time, an hour slots in a day, maybe do 4 hours in a day and have like different time slots. This is really going to help you organize your time so you don't end up pulling all-nighters whilst you edit, or just editing for hours non-stop, or not editing at all. It will make you feel a lot better throughout the process and encourage you to do it more. Because some of the things that happen within travel filmmaking can discourage you from the process, especially if you end up editing for 12 hours and you're like, all right, I never want to do that again. No more travel videos for me. That's kind of like a shame, really. And if you manage your time better, then it can encourage you to make a ton more and keep going however long you want to make them into the future. All right, guys, I think that's going to give you a good foundation, those 4 tips, to make that first travel video. And I would just get out there and smash it. You know, it's an amazing experience, and it can be really a lot of fuel for your own creativity in your brain, especially if you're not that creative and you're not doing creative stuff in your day-to-day life. It can be a really cool thing, not only to capture your own memories, but also to fire up that creativity in your brain. And if that is your goal, I'm looking forward to reading those comments about your motivations to maybe grow a following or start a career in this direction. All right, guys, keep filming. I'll catch you very soon. Bye-bye.